Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on March the 2nd, Wednesday, March the 2nd. And today we're going to talk about Canada. We've been wanting to talk about Canada for quite some time because Canada has been in the news in ways that we're not accustomed to. Usually, when we talk about Canada, it's hockey or when the Toronto Blue Jays eliminate the Rangers out of the postseason or something like that. But here we're talking about Canada politics and some very interesting politics north of the border. So we've invited today our good friend Brian Lloyd French. I've known Brian for several years. We got connected several years ago because of Cuba. He wrote a book about Cuba. I wrote a book about Cuba, and we got connected, and we've had our friendship over the years, and we've also had a few baseball discussions along the way. So let me say hello all the way up in Ontario to our good friend Brian. How are you, Brian?
It is cold up here.
Tell me how cold.
Yeah, how cold would you like it to be? It's probably about freezing.
All right, so that would be zero, right? Zero for you, right? Or 30? Yeah. No, 32 for us and zero for you, right?
So zero for us.
Well, 32 for us, but
yeah, that's another Trudeau accomplishment, by the way.
Well, we're having a wonderful day. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but we're having a wonderful day. It's actually 71. Yeah. Now, I don't know how you translate that into centigrades because I never learned how to do that, but it's 71, which is about as perfect as it can be.
Yeah, but typically Trudeau would Trudeau 1 would want us to be anything but American. So, despite the fact that 99% of all our trade is with the United States, he wants to use the metric system, which helps the Russians take control of our economy.
So, I think we're starting to get into it now when we talk about our friend Justin. Yeah. His father was prime minister. His father was Pierre, right?
Oh yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time, yeah. I remember.
Well, I don't know if it's his father, but his senior Trudeau was the president or prime minister for a long time.
That's right. I think he was prime minister when Reagan was prime minister, at least at the beginning of the Reagan presidency.
Yeah, it'd be about the same.
That would be about 35 to 40 years ago. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Brian. I just said that you're an author. Just give us a little update on what you're doing these days.
Well, I wrote one of the most dramatic books ever written on Cuba. It's called Castro's Last Mojito.
And you put my name in that book. I actually appear in that book as
you
a
do
character.
Appear in the book. Everybody I knew who had an attachment to Cuba is in that book.
Right. Yeah, I am in page, if you ever get the book, I think it's page 164. And I happen to be, I think I'm invading the island, if I remember correctly.
Right. That's right. Yeah, we're taking over from Castro. We're going after Castro, I think.
That's right.
But you see, the thing is, of course, is that the speculation is that Justin Trudeau is Fidel Castro's son. So there's a natural tie there.
Yes, and I've heard a lot about that particular connection there. And it's rather confusing. Now, let me just ask you a question. Is Margaret, his mother, still alive?
Yes. Oh, yeah. God knows who she's hanging out with now.
Yeah. All right. So, but you also wrote a book about French Canadians, right?
Oh, yeah. That's more literature. It's historical literature. The Cuban book was just came out of the blue. I decided, I've traveled a lot. I've never been to Cuba, so I went down to Cuba and had a great time. And then I started going every year, and I started making friends, and so I felt very at home there. So I wrote a book about it, and it's pretty good. It's as much as a travelogue as it is a spy story, but it is, of course, kind of a spy story because everything in Cuba is spy, somehow oriented around spies.
What I love about your book is I got in for free. The book that I wrote, I had to pay to publish it. Your book, I got in for free.
Well, we Canadians and Cuban Canadians and Cuban affected Canadians believe in free stuff.
Well, how many? I'm just curious. You just got me to ask you a question. How many Cubans are there in Canada?
You know what? There's probably 100,000.
Now,
You know,
many
and
of them were in Montreal,
most-
right? More in Montreal?
Yeah, a lot in Montreal,
Yeah.
a lot, or Quebec. And quite a few
is
in
that
Ontario.
because of that flight, Havana, Montreal?
Yeah, it's probably that as much as anything else. And 100,000 might be rich, but not too much. It's probably approaching that if it isn't in second generations.
Yeah. Well,
We don't trip over Cubans when we go outside or anything. But if you go to a Catholic a church cathedral, you're bound to run into a few.
yeah, there's a few Cubans there, especially today being Ash Wednesday. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll run into a few Cubans. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember, yeah, that's right. I remember when our family left, which was in 1964, that Canada was not a place that many Cubans went to. Generally, either Mexico or Spain, or in our case, we went Mexico, Jamaica, and then the United States.
Yeah.
So, but Canada was not so much. Now, there were some musicians who when they were at the airport in Montreal would run and seek asylum. There is a long story of those. In fact, the very famous trumpet player, whose name I cannot remember right now. but he was
Yeah,
one
I
of
know
those.
who you mean.
I cannot remember his name, but he was one of those. Well, just a quick note: you and I are big baseball fans, or at least we used to be, and it looks like the baseball season is going to be delayed. And I wrote a post today at the American Thinker saying that I'm very angry that they want to put more teams in the postseason, because I always thought that the beauty of baseball is that you had a long season, but then you had a few teams going to the postseason. Now they want to put like 14 teams. It's going to look like the NBA, which is, they lose me when they do that, Brian.
Yeah, it's just there seems to be a demand for change, regardless if it's good or bad change. But change by some is considered better.
Well,
I disagree.
I agree. I'm very much of a traditionalist when it comes to Major League Baseball. I think that, I mean, I know that at one time only 2 teams went to the postseason, and then it became 4, and then it became 5 and 5, and I can live with that. I can live with the current arrangement. But when you start talking about 14 teams, then what's the meaning of the season? I mean, what do you even play season? It's like the NBA. What does it matter? How you play the season? You're going to get into the postseason anyway. So
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and going down the stretch in the last few games when every game means everything, it's not there anymore. You always have a backup.
That's right. And that's what my article was about. It was about the pennant race. And some of the greatest memories that I have of baseball is watching the last 20 games of the season.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there following another game and following another game, because these games matter a heck of a lot. Well, let's get into Canada. What in the world happened up there? I mean, tell us a little bit of what was going on.
Well, where should I start? We have a bozo as a prime minister, whose father is of dubious heritage. You see, one of my old colleagues when I worked for the government was the traveling partner of Pierre Trudeau's wife, and frequently traveled with her overseas, and often to Cuba. So there's supposition and some coincidental facial feature similarities between her son and her lover in Cuba.
That would be a great novel for you to write.
Oh, gall. I wouldn't want to. It's just I try to stay as far away from Trudeau's as I can.
So these truckers came from the western provinces. It looks
Yeah,
like.
they did, but they picked up people along the way, and what it was a little bit of a, I guess, reaction to rules associated with vaccinations.
But these western, go ahead.
Yeah, but some people don't want to be vaccinated. and particularly don't want to be vaccinated when there's no evidence that is protecting anyone from anything.
Well, that's interesting because we had the same debate down here. I'm sure you know. We had the same debate, but we ended all these mandates pretty much in 2020. I mean, like Texas has been wide open, pretty much wide open, since the fall of 2020. We did close in April and May of 2020, and then we gradually began to open by the fall. By September of 2020, the restaurants were 100%. Everything was 100%. Some of the bars were limited. Some of the beauty salons were limited. But in general, we've been living, the responsibility is up to the person, not the government. You take care of yourself. If you want to wear a mask, go right ahead. If you want your employees to wear a mask, go right ahead. But we're not forcing anybody to do anything. So we didn't have this pressure cooker down here that I think you have up there, where all these people in the western provinces, particularly the drivers, it blew up. I mean, they simply couldn't take it anymore. Do I have that right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really centered in left-wing politics and control rather than any reasonable argument. People are not dying from COVID. I've known two people who died of COVID. One was a guy from where was he from? Milwaukee, and he passed away. But he was very heavy. And one of the guys I golfed with at my golf club died. And again, he was very heavy, and he smoked like a fish and drank 24 beers a day. So the two people I know who passed from the disease, could have passed any day for other reasons.
Right. But what's interesting is that down here, I'm sure you know, we had this blue-red divide,
Yeah.
where the blue states were locking up and the red states were opening up. And Texas being, the red state, the biggest one, in Florida also, we opened up, and our statistics were no worse than the blue states. So, I mean, you had New York, California, they're killing their economies with all these regulations. And if you look at the top 15 states right now, in terms of job creation, Texas and every one of those states is a Republican state. And then if you look at the Democrat states, they're all the ones that are struggling a great deal to get their economies back together. They're losing people like crazy. I mean, California is like a one-way street of people moving out. And it's all because of these crazy mandates. I mean, look, I'm vaccinated. I was vaccinated twice, and I'm not against vaccinations. When people ask me about it, I just say, look, talk to your doctor. Don't talk to me. I don't know anything about vaccinations. Talk to your doctor. But if you don't want to be vaccinated, that's your choice. I'm not going to tell you to be vaccinated. That's your choice. You decide what to do with your life. I'm not going to tell you, and government shouldn't tell you either, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose that's one reason we have physicians.
That's exactly right. That's why we pay them to go see them. But I always felt, and I like to correct me if I'm wrong, but I always felt that there is maybe it's not blue-red divide, but that those provinces west of Ontario are a lot more conservative, a lot more independent, and that even though this had to do with COVID, I feel for some time that this political divide has been happening in Canada. That my friends down here from British Columbia, from Manitoba, from Alberta, they hate the eastern part of the country. Now, maybe that's not representative, but when I look at Alberta, when I look at these other provinces, it's like Texas. It's like the southern part of the United States. They're a lot more libertarian, and they believe more in what we like to call down here states' rights. I don't know what you call it up there, but am I right? Am I seeing that divide in Canada?
Absolutely. The Westerners are affected economically. They've always been wealthy because of oil. And the Trudeau government has shut down oil pipelines, has restricted their ability to earn a living and build a healthy economy. And I mean, it's I spent all my life working hard, being honest, and to end up or come close to ending up to this situation in the country is a terrible disappointment, and it is frankly it's a cause for hatred because of what's happening to Canada, because of what I call him Puppy Trudeau is doing to the government. He's a puppy, and there's every likelihood that he's not even a Trudeau, but he's certainly a pompous ass.
Yes, I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. There seems to be a divide that people who live west of Ontario don't like Trudeau, and the people who live in Ontario and Quebec, they put up with him. Maybe there's some benefit to it. I don't know. But what keeps him in power, Brian, is the parliamentary system that you have.
Yeah.
Because he can get elected with 34% of the popular vote.
Yeah, or less.
I think he's done that twice, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does this tell you about the future of Canada? I mean, if you're a country that is as divided as Canada is right now, I mean, how do you feel as a citizen of Canada and the prospects for Canada in the future?
I try not to think about it. At this stage of my life, I frankly just want to live well and be healthy and play golf. But I can't even golf. They blocked us from golfing last year. So there's very few things in my last 10 or 20 years I want to do other than golf, and they take that away from me. So as if I ever get close, I don't kiss anybody when I golf. So it's not like I'm going to pass on or get ill from golfing.
But Canada really took this a lot tougher. I mean, not tougher, but I mean, they took these restrictions a lot more seriously than we did.
Yeah.
I mean, because again, being here in Texas, we've been able to do things for a long time. Like, for example, I'll give you a baseball example. In 2021, the baseball stadium opened completely. I mean, it was open 100%. But the Toronto Blue Jays were still playing in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't play in Toronto.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah. No. It's communist.
Well, it certainly looks that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But now let me ask you another question. You mentioned energy, you mentioned oil. We're having this big debate down here because, as you know, the Biden administration, to satisfy all of the whatever they call themselves, and I understand about climate change, but I also believe that you got to be reasonable in how you do this. You can't just shut down industry to satisfy the gods of climate change. And here you have a situation where it's hurting the West right now.
Mm-hmm.
Putin is using oil against us, and down here we have all the oil in the world if we want to produce it. If you take Alberta and Texas, we could take care of the world. Yeah. We could supply Europe with all it needs, but we're not doing it because of some stupid green energy policy that, I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can put in my car other than gasoline. And if I buy an electric car, if I can afford one, because they're like $50,000,
you still have to buy energy to drive it,
right? And you have the energy comes from a power plant,
well, or diesel generators.
Yeah, and so it's like I'm sitting here saying, what are we doing to ourselves? I mean, what are we doing to ourselves? So maybe that is an unintended consequence of Putin going into Ukraine, that it has shown us how stupid we are for not maximizing our energy supplies, Brian.
Well, I don't think we're stupid. I think there are people who are stupid who are coming up with policies like that. Well, and frankly, we're powerless.
Yes. Well, I guess one good, maybe down here, the better news is that we do have an election in November.
Yeah.
Where it does look very likely that Biden is going to take quite a hit. And that, I think, will at least change the situation. But, I mean, my goodness, we were energy independent in January of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a personal example. I just bought gasoline today for $3.45 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
That's unheard of. I never paid that kind of money in Texas for gasoline. And in 1 year, the gasoline has gone from $2 a gallon to $3.45. That is killing the family budget. That's, I mean, when you have to spend almost $47 to fill up a little Ford Focus, that's absurd.
Yeah.
That's absurd. And,
Yeah, we're paying $1.50 a liter.
which is like $6, right?
Yeah.
A gallon, right?
Yeah.
Because it's three whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty pretty,
But what are
pretty
the peop-
expensive. It's twice
what are
it's
the-
twice what we're used to paying.
Yeah. And what do the people of Alberta say about this? They've got the answer, and they can't even send it down to us because we stopped the pipeline.
Yeah. So we're not the first senior people to look at the situation and feel badly about the future. I got a list here of things to say about Justin Trudeau.
Okay. But as long as they can be, as they're not words that cannot be repeated in front of your wife and children. So try to keep it within, let's say, a
Well,
family.
I will. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Let's say like a PG-13 movie.
You what?
A PG-13.
Oh, okay.
movie,
Yeah.
which
No,
means that
but I
the
just
PG
have.
So as
I
long
just
as
have
you
this.
keep it within that, I'll be happy to hear it.
Okay, so yeah, and I'm not. I may be crazy, but I'm not that crazy. So I just want to talk about the crybaby that is Justin Trudeau. He feels sad for everything, and his sadness results in us giving other people money. So, first one. In 2017, Justin Trudeau gave a public apology to homosexuals who may have been treated badly when in the bureaucracy. So his response to that was to reward $800 million to homosexual government employees. Now, then he decided that if we charge people more to drive their cars and heat their houses, they will drive their car less, and maybe they won't heat their house as much. So he added an extra 5% on the cost of energy for carbon. Now, what is carbon? Carbon is carbon dioxide. Without carbon dioxide, we cannot exist. Plants cannot grow. But he had to add a tax to it. He bailed out a staffer who was a brutal sexual harasser. Paid him off, and he went south. Screwed up every trade agreement he ever entered into. And he even made the statement when asked about China that he admires, I admire their basic, what's the word he used? What's the word they use? Their basic,
Leadership.
No, it's not the leadership. It's negative leadership. Their basic, just control.
Control.
It's just, and he admires it. Then when there is a protest in Ottawa, which is legal, we have a right to drive it down our streets, whether it's in a truck or whether it's in a bicycle. And he called in the army.
And Brian, that's where I got angry with what was happening up there, because they start calling everybody a Nazi
Yeah.
and a Confederate, like they're saying the Confederate flag. I don't know how many Canadians go around with a Confederate flag. I've never met any. I don't think they have Confederate fan clubs
No.
in Canada. I don't think they have Robert E. Lee or Jefferson Davis fan clubs up there.
No.
I mean, the Confederate flag is, we all know the story. It's It used to be the flag of the
Yeah.
South, and that's fine. And I understand the history, but to say that people were waving these Nazi flags or Confederate flags when in fact you could probably count with your fingers the numbers of people who were doing that. There may have been some, I'm not going to deny it, but to try to do to these truckers what the left down here tries to do, calling them deplorables and white supremacists, that's when I got angry, because that's not fair on these truckers. They were not motivated by race. They weren't motivated by the Confederate flag or Nazis. They were just trying to get their livelihood back. That's all I saw. And I can understand that part of it. Now, I don't believe they should be blocking a bridge. I'm willing to concede that. You shouldn't block bridges because that's, you need that. You need that for trade. So I'm willing to say, okay, you can march, you can protest, but don't stop other people from doing business. Okay, that's fair. But to call them Nazis and Confederates, that's when it really got me mad, Brian.
And how about them blocking and locking people's bank accounts because they protested?
That's what put Canada on the front pages, because everybody's saying, what in the what is going on up there? To go after people's money and bank accounts, that's really crazy. I mean, that is
That's Putin style.
Yeah, that is beyond. The conversation down here was, what in the world is going on in Canada? Now, I believe they have put that back, right? They've rolled that back, right?
No, I remember his phrase. His phrase was, he respected Chinese basic dictatorship. He admired China's basic dictatorship. He's running our country.
Well, he acted like one with the bank accounts, that's for sure. But that really surprised a lot of us, because we felt that Canadians had a better legal system. I mean, in the sense that there's no way they could do that down here. For example, if you donate to something, the government cannot stop you. Now, if there's a terrorist connection or something, they might investigate it. But like these people who gave money to this GoFundMe or whatever it was called, and that they would not allow that money to go through, that's way over the top, Brian. That's scary stuff. And I hope Canadians realize how scary that is. I think they have.
Well, my generation will probably be the last one that really remembers Canada in its best of times. Because I can remember pre-Trudeau. I can remember when, Canada were first in war. Anytime anybody needed help, we'd send soldiers. And we were hardworking, we were honest, we went to church on the weekends. We were maybe a little bit boring, but, we lived good lives, and we're good people. And that Canada, I don't know anymore. My family is great. We're doing well. My friends seem to be doing well. Our son is finishing law school, and hopefully he'll end up on the right side of the law. But it's just disappointing. But the only way I can work my way out of it is by knowing that in 2 or 3 weeks I'm going to be golfing.
Well, now you can golf, right?
Yeah, we can golf now. And of course, we still have 2 feet of snow, but
right.
Okay, that will go away.
Yeah, but that'll go away. That'll melt, and you can have your golfing back.
And I'm going to get a cortisone shot on my knee, so so I can swing the golf club again. Yeah. So, and I don't drink anymore, so I drink near beer.
And how expensive is the beer now?
I don't know. I don't buy it anymore. But the near beer is probably, $1 a can or something.
Yeah, because I just heard some news yesterday that barley has gone up because of Ukraine. The cost of barley to make beer. So, that's probably going to be the breaking point. At that point, people say, that's it. No more Putin.
Yeah, we need our beer. We need our
beer. We definitely need our beer.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And all I can tell you is we got to do it again.
Yeah, for
gotta do
sure.
it again.
Let's find something a little more pleasant. Let's have one around the All-Star game.
All right, let's do that. We can talk a little baseball.
Yeah.
We can talk a little baseball. And I'll send you the article that I wrote at the American Thinker saying that whatever changes they make, please do not mess with the pennant races. Because the pennant races is, to me, what really separates baseball
Yeah.
from everything else.
Yeah,
know.
because you shouldn't be able to squeak into the World Series final by winning one or two games at the end of the season. It should be something earned. I mean, different divisions
Right.
was probably okay, but the way it is now, it's
But I know that one thing that when you watch the NBA, and we had this happen here with the Dallas Stars, the hockey team. Several years ago, they were the number 1 seed, and they were eliminated in the first round by the number 8 seed. And I'm sitting there saying, what is the point of winning all those games, coming in first, so that you have to prove yourself against a team that is number 8 that barely played 500? What's the point? I mean, why play the season? So that's
it's
I
about
hope
money. It's about ownership. It's about buying and selling franchises. It's about
Right.
generation of wealth by a very few. I am a capitalist, so that's fine. But we are prepared to accept that
Right.
if it results in good entertainment.
That's
But,
right. Well, you have a great afternoon. Thank you for
You
joining us.
too, Silvio.
And I look forward to our next time. And it's great to see you. You look great in that blue jersey. I thought that was
Yeah,
a
it's
Toronto Blue
Italia.
Jays.
It's
Italia,
Italia
okay.
jersey.
I thought you were going to have a Toronto Blue Jays
No,
blue
this is
jersey
Italia.
on me.
Soccer.
'Cause
I can watch
yeah.
soccer.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I thought you were going to
Okay,
have.
Silvio.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much.